and welcome to another edition of discussion with Simone on philosophical topics. Today, we have chosen to discuss on another famous philosophers, in fact, who is known for his rationalism and his contributions changed the scenario of Western philosophy. We are talking about none other than Rene Descartes, a 17th century philosopher. He was a mathematician as well as a philosopher, born in 1596, and he passed away in 1666. He is one of those famous empiricists, or rather rationalists, you can say that. In fact, he is also known as father of rationalism. He didn't agree with the traditional Aristotelian, the scholastic philosophy school, and he had his own views about philosophy. And he made certain remarks that made the foundation of philosophical school and thinking for the Western world, and he remains as one of those famous philosophers of all times. So today we'll be discussing, after this brief introduction, as I told about him, I will be discussing about his theories, what he talked about, and the relevance of the theories today, especially from a medical perspective, I'll be discussing. So, Simone, welcome again to the show. I understand Descartes talked about his whole contribution could be divided into three parts. One is his skepticism, the famous Cartesian skepticism, as we call, about the doubts. Second, about his dualism, or the so-called mind-body dualism. And third, his views on God. All right. So let's start with maybe skepticism.
All right.
So if you don't, if you tell a little bit about that, I might sort of intervene and I can ask some clarifications.
So, like most of us at some point in our life, Descartes was faced with this whole situation of realizing that something you once knew, once believed in, was fake or a lie. And for most people, we just kind of leave it at there. But Descartes, he looked a bit deeper into it and said, what about the stuff that I believe right now? Is that a lie? And he believed, he struggled to find a way to prove it. Mm-hmm. And some people might have argued you could rely on your senses, but Descartes, he believed that your senses can fool you quite often. Like when you go in from playing out in the snow and room temperature water, it feels warm. Stuff like that. It's basic, your senses just tricking you. So he realized that a lot of his ideas could be fake or could be fabricated without him knowing it. And he wanted a way to figure out which ones were fake and how to prevent them from sort of contaminating the others. He gave an allegory of a bucket of apples where some of them are rotten and the rot might spread to others. So the best way to find out which ones are good and which ones are rotten is just to tip the whole bucket out and sort through the apples by themselves. Mm-hmm. And in this scenario, he comes up with a fundamental belief that he can base all of his ideas on.
What are the fundamental beliefs?
This is cogito ergo sum.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, maybe I'll just clarify that a little bit more. I mean, essentially, as you said very rightly, that your senses. He was an empiricist, rather a mathematician, so he had to believe in those axioms. Something has to be based on certain premises, and then the result will be deducted from that, isn't it? So, but he said our way of the axioms could be applied in philosophy in the way that whatever knowledge we gain through our senses. But as you said, senses could be faulty, isn't it? So his fundamental principle, I thought, was he thought everything should not be accepted as it is. Doubt.
That's
It
essentially Cartesian.
Cartesian
It's
thinking.
rejecting all of your ideas.
Yes. He said, you have to doubt first, and then you go step by step. Okay. In fact, there are four principles of doubt. He said, I should have mentioned it somewhere. That first, not to accept anything, doubt almost everything or most of the stuff that you can doubt. Second, you break down those doubted, that the thing you doubt, into simple parts, the so-called analytical method. All right. The next one is the synthetic method, in which he talks about go from one of those simpler things that you doubt to the complex things. All right. And the final one is the so-called complete verifications. So that basically how he approached his skepticism, the principle based on that.
Method of doubts.
Yeah. And I really liked it, though. His concept of radical doubt. You doubt everything. And he had his own test. So he said, okay, interesting. I mean, we will come to the cogito ergo sum, his theory. He said, okay, how do we know that we exist? Maybe we are dreaming. All right. Then he thought, all right, when you doubt, there is something that's really fundamental. When we doubt, we cannot doubt that we doubt. All right.
The
So
action of
yeah,
thinking proves that you exist.
yeah. So anyone, so human being is a thinking being. If you are thinking, then you exist. And that in become a very, what do you call, the foundational belief in his skepticism. That in Latin that means cogito ergo sum. I think, hence I exist, or hence I am. All right. So that is one of those the fundamental Cartesian beliefs or Cartesian skepticism that led to the foundation of multiple sciences. As you know, science is ultimately based on empiricisms. You doubt something, then you prove that your doubt is right or wrong. Okay. So the next part of our discussion and next part of his theory is on dualism. Do you know much about that, Simone?
Not that much.
Yeah, I mean, basically dualism means two things, isn't it? One is mind, what is the other part? Is a body, isn't it? Mind and body dualism. So that is something Rene Descartes is famous about, that mind has, in fact, there are differences, he said. The mind is, mind or soul, in fact, he said, is conscious, all right? Whereas the body or matter is not conscious. Mind is more like active, he thought. It's unconscious but active, changes from, but body on the other hand, the matter is more or less static. So I'm talking about the dichotomy. And third is that
it reminds me of the Socratic idea that your body is like matter and your mind is something that's intangible.
okay, yeah, probably Socrates might have talked about it, but Rene Descartes is the person who basically worked on it. That became one of his major chunks of thinking. All right. So you're talking about consciousness, activity. Third is expansionness. You cannot extend or expand mind. All right. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have any space. It doesn't have any dimensions. But physical things, they could be extended. All right. They've got some shape or dimensions. Last but not the least, mind is indivisible. You can divide into different parts as an entity. Your soul, mind, they're talking about. And whereas body or the matter is divisible. You can go dividing one by one, and ultimately it comes to the atom. Or the person. They talked about. So the ultimate unit of thing is atom, or maybe electron, proton, other things. So mind-body dualism is one of those fundamental theories by René Descartes. All right. So that is something very important. Do you have anything to say on that? Anything on the dichotomy?
Um, Not that much. Yeah, it's as far as I can tell, there's quite a bit of a connection to older philosophers in the sense that you have a dichotomy between the body and mind, which is a pretty old belief.
Yeah, yeah. See the again. However, the modern theories or people, those who came after Descartes, they believe that maybe there are some connections between mind and body. In fact, Descartes came with his theory called interactionalism. Mind and body interact, he said, through uh, an organ in the brain called pineal gland. Have you heard about it? Pineal gland, one of the organs in deeper part of the brain that is theorized as we still don't know in modern science what exactly its role. But Descartes, as well as some other anatomists, they believe that could be the mysterious holy grail comparing or connecting mind and brain. Although that is more of theoretical debate than there is a lot of practical proof in it. So that's something he talked about. All right. Last but not the least, Descartes also is known for his views on God. Being a devout Catholic, he said, uh, proved the existence of God by telling the so-called ontological theory, in which he believed that uh, we think about God, therefore God might be there. Well, that's probably more complex than what we said, but that's what essentially his thinking about it. We probably would be. We have to devote more time to understand that
It links back
concept.
to how he believed that, how he questioned whether
Hmm.
reality was real or not, and as a devout Catholic, he believed that if there was a God, they wouldn't just fill your mind up with false memories, which is the whole thing with the global doubt, is an idea that
Yeah,
everything you believe, the concept that if there's something wrong and it's something that's so widely accepted that there's no way to disprove it. And
yeah. So something that is so much like we talk about it, and it cannot be disproved. Yeah, God cannot be disproved. Yes, that's what he talked about. Um, All right. Global doubt and
local doubt.
local doubt also he talked about, isn't it? Those are sort of in his uh, in the what do you call the skepticism. So essentially, what you're talking about, Rene Descartes remains one of those pivotal figures in philosophy. Um, he, in fact, uh, is considered, and with lots of justifications, as the father of Western philosophy. Most philosophical traditions probably followed from his thinking onward. He didn't agree or he disagreed with Aristotelian hegemony, and he had his own theories more based on mathematical principles.
One thing that I think is really interesting is Descartes' role as a mathematician, because like most people think of philosophy when they think of him, but he did have a huge say in geography. You have a field of geography called Cartesian Geography, which
Hmm.
is named geometry, which is basically your whole concept of having a plane of two dimensions with your x and y axis.
Hmm.
He was pretty much the one who found the idea.
Okay,
So
Cartesian geometry.
yeah,
Yeah, as we discussed in the beginning, this French philosopher was basically a mathematician, a bit like Bertrand Russell was a mathematician, but also a philosopher. And so that's about him and his dual the mind body uh, theory has been criticized by modern thinkers, especially from the mental health perspective. Uh, the principle is that very often we think that mind and body interact with each other, And there are, in fact, a whole branch of medicine called psychosomatic medicine. That means how mind influences body. So people very often are very critical of Descartes' way of the division, mind and body division. So people think body diseases are separate from mind diseases. But in reality, that may not be the case. However, as we studied, as we learned, Descartes also thought about interactionalism, even if he used pineal gland as one of the metaphors. But that's what he talked about. So that's about it. Thanks once again for watching us. We'll be discussing about another philosopher next week. Our choice of philosophers is not based on any rational than just who we thought are more popular and who have influenced science or different sciences. Uh, so that's what our basis of choosing philosophers. And after we talk about different philosophers, we may be discussing about different philosophy schools eventually. So thanks once again for your support. Please ask or you can post your questions, your criticisms and comments, and we'll endeavor to answer those in our next discussion. So thank you.